Back in 2009, I would have said to any of you openly, confessed to you openly, that I was, well, cause-free. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't believe in anything. It's just that I wasn't spending my time with things that provided a lot of, let's say, purpose and meaning for me, for anybody else. And if you know this feeling of flux, if you have ever had that kind of a sense of feeling, that you probably also have somebody in your life that's telling you that you need something that gets you out of their hair, the house, and adds more meaning and purpose to your life. For me, that was my wife. Surprise. And at the same time that she brought this up to me, there was a small article, not a very large one, in the White Bear Lake paper about a group of people that were getting together, a city-sponsored group, and they were going to talk about biking and walking and how to make it better in White Bear Lake. So I went to the meeting. Several thousands of hours later, I'm here with you tonight, which means I'm not at home, which means whoever is at our house, they better get out because we got a firm policy on purpose and meaning. Immersion. Immersion is a wonderful thing. It's very time-consuming, but it's so great when you learn all of the different moving parts of something. And if you have an immersive personality, you know what I'm talking about. You know what works, what doesn't work. You get a chance to see the big picture. And in biking and walking, the big picture is safe biking and walking for all people of all ages and abilities. And it sounds like one word, kind of like cold Canadian air, right? I mean, that's one word, isn't it? And you know what? That's an important point because this is the kind of a thing that we gravitate towards. I mean, we look at this kind of a scene. I mean, everyone seems to want to do biking and walking, but you know, do we really get to it? And this is such a human scene. I mean, look at this. This is a beautiful painting. They're doing the human thing. They're interacting, they're connecting, they're moving under their own power. I mean, these are things that we do naturally as humans. And so if we intellectually see it, if we can grasp that, if we naturally do it, we want to move under our own power, we want to make that happen, why isn't every community bike friendly? Why can't you just walk out the door 24/7, day or night, and feel safe walking in your neighborhood? So we intellectually see it, we naturally want to do it, and you know what? In our communities, we plan for it. This is the transportation objective for my community's 2030 plan, Met Council. Now, if you're from the area, you probably know what Met Council is, but if you're not, it's a regional agency, and what they do is they give a template to all the communities, and they say, hey, look, fill this out with your hopes, dreams, aspirations, charts, graphs, everything you want to do. What's your community going to look like for the next 20 years? And that's what this is about. And what I want you to look at is that one word called multimodal. Multimodal. It's a balancing. It's a balancing of how we're going to get around our town. Are we going to walk? We're going to bike? We're going to use a skateboard, a car? How are we going to do that? Well, we want to balance that. And by saying that, we're saying that we want to have policies that make it part of our DNA so that when we pour concrete, when we press asphalt into the ground, we're going to be thinking about everybody and how they get around town. Oh my God, why am I here? I mean, seriously. I mean, we intellectually know that we're going to do it. We naturally do it. We're going to plan for it. Who needs an advocate? Want an advocate? No? Friendly crowd? You're probably married. Hey, honey, I brought home an advocate. Take that idea that I just gave you and put it over here. Let's call it the bike box. Because I want to tell you a story. A few years ago, Highway 61 in White Bear Lake, a very short section of it, about 1.6 miles, was refurbished. My city added a number of bells and whistles to it. They call it a sense of place and arrival. Now, the cost of place and arrival is about $6 million, okay? Now, you remember that group back in 2009? I answered the ad in the paper, and I went to the meeting and everything else. Well, now it's 2011. And they've asked us, the city has, to come downtown, 2-block walk, to meet with the people from the Minnesota Department of Transportation to talk about this Highway 61 corridor and what's going to happen. And we go, and there's a few of us, and we sit down and we talk, and it's one of those first-time meetings where you kind of get to know each other, and we get done and we do what people do when you get done with your meeting. You say, when's the next meeting? And the guy in the big chair next to me says, we'll call you. Well, White Bear Lake is not a very big place. I mean, you bump into people all the time, and we're going around town, and there's a few of us, so there's a lot of conversations, there's a lot of relationships and things here, and we're sending some emails, we're making some phone calls, and we're not getting any kind of a response from these people. We're losing our chair at the table for this corridor and its design. In fact, the entire community didn't see the plan until it was 60% done, only 3 months from closing and going out to bid. We're frantic. I mean, we're running around, we're talking council people, we're talking to the mayor, we're doing all these different things, and we just can't get anyone to budge. We got an ombudsman from MnDOT who showed up even. I mean, this is a big deal. We weren't going anyplace. So let's do this. Let's take a look at what happened on Highway 61 without that center board of advocacy. The median on the left is 19 feet wide. If you cross 2 lanes of traffic, you get to the sidewalk. It's only 5 feet wide. You could build tiny homes on that median. Bikes need about 4 feet. Now, if someone's coming the other way, let's say you got another bike. Let's say you got someone in a stroller. Say you've got somebody with a wheelchair. Say you got a group of kids going to school. Somebody's going to go perilously close, if not into that street. And I mean, Highway 61 is posted at 40 miles an hour. But really, because MnDOT is so good at building roads, I mean, the sight lines, the way the thing is built, people want to go faster, and the lights are timed a certain way. It's a very, very fast road, so it's not a safe place to go. And that meager sidewalk, that little sidewalk that bike is on, that does not extend the length of the corridor. You cannot go from one end of the corridor to the other on that sidewalk. And the city just let me know, hey, look, get ready for it, because about 2 months out of the year, that sidewalk is going to be covered in snow because they don't have the right kind of equipment and remember this? Multimodal, balanced, right? I mean, this is what we were talking about, but it just didn't happen. Advocates refresh your community's conscience. Even agreed-to planning sometimes doesn't happen. I mean, decision makers are just pummeled with interrelated special interests and demands. And sometimes if someone's not there to counteract that, it just kind of flies off the chart. So let's take a breath. Let's do what Andy Grove, who was the CEO at Intel, says. When Andy had a problem, he'd walk out the building and he'd come back in and take another look at it. And let's do this. Let's go right back to White Bear Lake. And let's look at a project that was originally pegged as a bike and ped project, but it brings so much more value to the community than just bike and ped, which really sounds to me like a special interest. Well, it's not. Introducing Lake Avenue. You been to Lake Avenue? Nice spot, right? Used to be a 2-lane road. It's on the northwest side of Little White Bear Lake. Now it's a 1-lane road. And when you look at this picture, you're going to notice that the place that's been reserved for people to bike and walk and congregate and kind of hang out, it's wider. It's actually bigger than the travel lane. And one of the most incredibly thoughtful things that my city did in designing this is they have kind of an undulating curb on it. It's not a curb that you fall off. It's something that integrates motorized and non-motorized people. It does a great job because if you're on a bike and you're behind some people and you can't get around them, you can go on the street and come back up. And if the city has to plow snow, which they do a great job on this trail, they can come up and do it. And if you own land, you can get to your property very, very easily. And people from all over the community, the area, and the metro, my gosh, people I know who bike, they come through town all the time. Lake Avenue is a destination, is what it is. It's not a trail, it's a destination. And this really is one of the best of White Bear Lake. So when you think of all of this that I've talked about, it's really pretty simple. If you build for cars, you're going to get cars. If you build for people, you're going to get people. And when you get people, what do? You get relationships, you get connectivity, you get community. We have in this example one community. We have 2 projects, 2 choices, and 2 outcomes. Lake Avenue, Highway 61. One is the byproduct of open discussion and advocacy. The other, neither. To advocate or not to advocate. That is the outcome. Now I've got a very personal question to ask each and every one of you. Are the doors locked?
We're good, Mike.
We're good. All right. How many of you here know somebody else? Anybody here know somebody else? And now I don't want you to look in the mirror and say, hey, there's my second guy. But you do, and you know, and you know, and you know, and everybody else knows. And if we do that, if we go through the room and we say about all these people know, eventually we meet Kevin Bacon. Now, I don't want you leaving here at home going, what'd you learn tonight, Bacon? I learned all about bacon. I want you to leave here and really, really believe in your heart of hearts that each one of you is the lead domino of a never-ending string of relationships and positive outcomes. I really, really believe that if we have a livability kind of a thinking in our project, our plans, and our DNA of cities, we're not only going to solve the problems of cities, we're going to solve the problems of the people that live in those cities. So I have to ask you, what do you believe in? What do you want to advocate for? What is it that's not in your community that you want to see happen? Now, you can't get away from me on this one. I mean, the doors are locked. And I know that for every seat in the house, every person that's standing, there's at least 2 of you that can lock arms, that can advocate. So when you leave here, go get those shovels and dig. Find the information, find the relationships that are going to make your community better, and get involved to make sure that the things that are important to your community, that they really do happen. Thank you.